Don't you just hate it when you open your bathroom door and a skeletal man who lost all his skin in a fiery incident is there to greet you? I know I sure do. Your mother!
Hello Brawlers and welcome. Today, we're coming at you with a deck based around heavy metal Bakugan. These are some of the most popular special attack Bakugan, and they're one of our favorite types. And no, it's not just because we're metalheads. This deck is going to include a lot of options for cards, as there are many different strategies you can experiment with using heavy metal Bakugan. We'll be bringing you a core that uses 3 different attributes, specifically Subterra, Ventus, and Chaos. But know that you could use pretty much any other combination or even use a single attribute if you have the right cards and Bakugan. Speaking of, this deck will be using Bakugan and cards from Battle Brawlers and New Vestroia. We'll be including some recommendations for Brawlers that want to incorporate traps into their deck as well, but we'll also make sure you don't need them if you're not playing with traps. Without further ado, our lineup. We'll be bringing Subterra Alpha Hydronoid with 650 Gs, Ventus Primo Vulcan, also with 650 Gs, and Chaos Delta Dragonoid with 530 Gs. As stated before, there are plenty of Bakugan that can work with this deck. We've specifically chosen these Bakugan to match up against higher G-Power decks. If you go this route as well, you'll want to make sure that you don't undershoot your opponent's Bakugan too much. A good rule of thumb is to stay within 200 Gs of your opponent if you can. This deck is helped significantly by any Subterra trap that can change your Bakugan to Ventus, such as Hexados, Gracchus Hound, or some versions of Pyrus. This is particularly the case with one of our most powerful gate cards, but we'll get to that in a second. If you're playing with 2 traps, or don't have a Subterra trap that swaps to Ventus, you can also make use of a Ventus trap that swaps to either Chaos or Subterra, depending on what ability cards you choose to use. There's honestly even more traps than just these, but with the Bakugan we're bringing, these will be the best. Experiment to find out which ones work the best for you. Normally, we like to discuss gate cards and then ability cards, but we're going to switch it up a bit this time. That's because the main basis of this deck is founded on 3 cards, but a very specific interpretation of the text on said cards. Those cards are High Voltage, Red-Green Combine, and Magnetic Attack. High Voltage is a Copper Gate card which has bonuses ranging from above average to almost unheard of in this era of the game. However, this card states that if the winner of this battle wins by more than 100 G-Power, then the winner must put all of their unused ability cards into their used pile. This is why we want to consider low G-Power Bakugan, and also why we want to use a Subterra trap that switches us to Ventus. We actually want to lose the battle on this card, and ideally we want to do so right at the beginning of the game. Doing so means that our opponent will lose all of their ability cards and probably be helpless for the rest of the brawl. We have to give them a win to do so, but isn't high risk, high reward pretty metal? If this weren't powerful enough, we can combine this gate card with the green ability card, Red-Green Combine. Bit of a tongue twister there. Red-Green Combine is played after you played a red ability card. More on that later. When played, this ability gives your Bakugan plus 50 G-Power for each card in your opponent's used pile. That's 150 G-Power if our strategy with High Voltage went off. Oh, and by the way, this card also says that at the end of the turn, you put this ability card back into your hand. Now, the Bakugan rules never make reference to players having a hand, but based on the language used with other cards, this likely means that it goes back to your unused pile, meaning you can play it again in the next battle. This won't be the last bit of interpretation we have to do with this card, so just be ready for that. Of course, we need a good red ability card to combo with Red-Green Combine. For this, we'll be using Magnetic Attack. Magnetic Attack is an ability that specifically works with Heavy Metal Bakugan. After standing a Heavy Metal Bakugan on a gate card with no other Bakugan on it, you may play Magnetic Attack to move a standing enemy Bakugan on another card to the one your Heavy Metal Bakugan just stood on, immediately starting a battle. This is great, as it forces opponents to battle against you on high voltage, and it should be live for most, if not all, battles we may or may not want to play Red-Green Combine on. Now, as for that rules interpreting we mentioned earlier, Red-Green Combine's activation condition is that it must be played after you played a red ability card. It doesn't specify when after you played a red ability card. Presumably this means that it doesn't have to be directly after playing such a card. If that is what it means, then Red-Green Combine has a very small list of abilities it could combo with, as most red ability cards are played in the rolling phase of the game, not in battle. Also, if we assume Red-Green Combine adds itself back to the player's unused pile at the end of the turn to be used again later, this could imply that Red-Green Combine still meets its activation condition. If you played a red ability card once, you can play Red-Green Combine again, no matter how much earlier in the brawl it was. Yeah, Bakugan isn't exactly known for its problem-solving card text, so we understand that this is a lot of assumptions on our part, and you and your opponent might not agree on that ruling. If not, then don't worry. We'll include cards you can substitute for all three of these. Some will keep this core strategy, while others will let you experiment with different tactics. As for some other Copper Gate cards, you can try your hand with various lowest G-Power wins cards if you're using a build like ours. G-Power Swap can accomplish something similar, and its bonuses are quite good for Subterra, Ventus, and Chaos. Mirror Gate is also a fun option, enabling the brawler whose Bakugan has the lowest printed G-Power, which is hopefully us, to return one of their ability cards that they use this turn to their unused pile. Its bonuses are pretty good for the three attributes we're using here too. But if it's really big bonuses we want, then we want to look into Tricolor Boot. Bigger boot! Not only are the bonuses high to start with for our Bakugan, but Bakugan owned by brawlers using at least 3 different attributes in this game get plus 150 G-Power. That means Ventus, which is our lowest bonus by default, shoots all the way up to plus 300 G-Power with this effect. Needless to say, that's very good, and this effect is even more pronounced against opponents using only 1 or 2 attributes. All that being said, high voltage works well even if you decide to change your red or green ability card, so keep that in mind too. Really quick, let's touch on Silvergate cards. There's actually a surprising number of options here. Like usual, our Silvergate card doesn't matter too much, so we just want to look for anything that helps the attributes we're using. In our case, there's plenty. Deep Tan, Deep Roots, and Stone Wing Gate all work well for the Subterra, Ventus, and Chaos Bakugan we're packing. Fun fact, Deep Roots and Stone Wing Gate have exactly the same attribute bonuses. The only mechanical difference between these two cards is their different highlighted attributes. Whip that piece of trivia out at a party, everyone will love it. Gold Gate cards similarly spoil us for choice. Generically good cards for this list can include Holding Power, Power Up, and Card Force. The gold one, not the copper one. Bakugan cards, am I right? Anyway, all 3 of these cards have different effects, but they're all based around the number of ability cards your opponent has in their used pile, meaning they work best with high voltage as our Copper Gate card. With our specific Bakugan lineup, we also have the option to play either Vulcan or Dragonoid as our Gold Gate card. These are your standard Gold Gate cards which double the Gate attribute bonus for their matching Bakugan, both of which we're using. Vulcan probably has the better bonuses for our Bakugan overall, but both work well for our strategy. On to ability cards. Red ability cards are the ones in less need of interpretation, and thus less need of change. If you do decide you don't want to use Magnetic Attack, however, you can use Magnetic Action. This card similarly affects Bakugan placement, allowing you to put your opponent's Bakugan on a card of your choice after they roll. As we've mentioned before, You can do this regardless of whether your opponent's Bakugan stands or misses. This allows you immense battlefield control, enabling you to start or avoid battles whenever you want, and even allowing you to place opponents' Bakugan onto cards when they purposefully try to miss. This is a very strong effect. Debatably, it's even stronger than Magnetic Attack. It doesn't actually need to be used with Heavy Metal Bakugan either, so this ability can work as a good substitute if you don't have enough Heavy Metal Bakugan but want to try this strategy. Call it a cover band. We had to do a lot of thinking with Red-Green combined. If you are a fellow monkey who doesn't like doing that, then you might want to look at other green abilities. For that, you have two main options. Rock On is an ability card which is played at the beginning of a battle on an opponent's gate card before the card is revealed. When played, your Chaos and Subterra Bakugan will gain any attribute bonuses from the gate cards and ability cards twice during this battle. This will help you close the gap if you're using low G-Power Bakugan like we are, and works especially well if you bring a trap that can swap your Ventus Bakugan to either Chaos or Subterra. That way, all three of your Bakugan can gain the benefit from this card. Then, there's always Attractor, if you want to keep the magnetic theme going. Kinda. This card is played after your opponent stands a Bakugan and lets you move it to the other gate card. Not as powerful as Magnetic Action, but still good to have additional battlefield control. With our specific setup, there is also the option of trying to make the lowest G-Power wins cards work with Chaos 2, but that might be too inconsistent, both because we don't have other cards to support this move, and the fact that we only have one Chaos Bakugan in our force. Don't let that stop you from trying to surprise opponents with this though. Also, you can try making Copycat work if you're feeling spicy and want something that works better on your own gate cards than Rock On. As for blue ability cards, we have two main options. If you and your opponent are using traps, consider using Infinity Dragonoid. This ability must be played during a battle where your opponent has a Bakugan trap and you have a Heavy Metal Bakugan. When played, this card will remove your opponent's Bakugan trap from the game and give your battling Bakugan plus 150 G-Power. Removing your opponent's trap from the game means they won't be able to use it at all once you play this card, and 150 G-Power on top of that is nothing to sneeze at.
Sneeze as in the sickness? As in down with the sickness?
If your opponent isn't using traps though, you'll want to use Special Crush. Special Crush must be activated during a battle where you have a Special Treatment Bakugan when you do not have more gate cards in your used pile than your opponent. Basically, you have to be losing or tied with your opponent to play this card. Remember that Heavy Metal Bakugan count as Special Treatment, so they all work with this ability. When played, your Bakugan gains G-Power based on its attribute. All of our Bakugan will gain sizable bonuses, but Ventus is particularly strong here with a 200 G-Power bonus. If you're using Bakugan with different attributes, there are other similar abilities, such as Special Boost, but be aware that their attribute bonuses are much different. Regardless, you should have what you need to blast your opponent.
I like blasted stuff!
We should note that Iron Dragonoid is a great blue ability card as well, and is debatably the best option, but it looks like an incredibly rare card. Good to keep in mind if you're proxying though. This card simply adds 150 G-Power to any Bakugan you're battling with if all of the Bakugan in your force are heavy metal. With a strong early game setting up a colossal lead on the opponent, this deck should catch people by surprise and turn the rest of the brawl into your solo. If you're careful of opponents that neutralize High Voltage's effect, and of those who recur their abilities with cards like Lock and Load, you should be able to pull the rug out from under enemy brawlers' feet and shred them. Just be careful in multiplayer brawls. This is definitely a deck made to battle against a single opponent. But anyway, that does it for Kings of Metal. We'll see you next time. Till then, keep on brawling.